Hello, brothers. The Russian polar bear is quickly becoming the pet of the East. This is not an exaggeration. The international landscape is undergoing a significant change. In the 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it has not only exposed the flaws in Russia's military strength, but also fundamentally changed the power dynamics on the Eurasian continent. This has made the East the biggest winner in this crisis. Today, he will analyze the truth behind this international upheaval. In the geopolitical landscape of the East, threats are always layered. The first layer is Japan cutting off their throat at sea. The second layer is the giant neighbor to the north, Russia. The third is the United States, far across the Pacific. Many are shocked and confused. They believe Russia is deeply affectionate. Little do they know, there are no everlasting friends between nations. Only everlasting interests. Today, Putin may greet them with a smile. But tomorrow, a new leader might show no mercy. Historically, whether Tsarist Russia or the Soviet Union, none have been a blessing. True strategic wisdom lies in not betting security on the personal attitude of foreign leaders. What the East needs is not temporary friendship from Russia, but a guarantee that it will forever lose the ability to launch an attack. This is why the dissolution of the Soviet Union was a strategic victory for them. After the separation of Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, the pressure from the north has drastically decreased. If they were to reunite, the northern pressure would return. Thus, Ukraine's independence is crucial for the East. Russia must not be allowed to annex it. In February 2022, when Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, many military experts predicted Kiev would fall in just 1 hour and 22 minutes. Many believed Russia's armored divisions would quickly sweep through Eastern Europe. However, reality gave everyone a slap in the face. Zelensky did not flee as many expected but remained in Kiev. He organized a strong resistance. Ultimately, the so-called invincible Russian army failed to take Kiev and retreated across all fronts. They could barely maintain their positions with sporadic artillery fire and low-cost drones. Even after more than a year of war, the Ukrainian army could still launch large-scale counterattacks. They even briefly penetrated Russian territory. Although these counterattacks ultimately failed due to political motives overshadowing military significance, they proved that the so-called world's second military power is merely a paper tiger. The dream of a great Russian empire has been shattered. For the East, this is a strategic reassurance for northern security. Russia has revealed its true strength, which is far weaker than many imagined. This means the East can finally relieve the strategic pressure from the north and direct more attention to the Pacific. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has brought not only strategic security to the East, but also immense economic benefits, as the West imposed thousands of sanctions on Russia, excluding it from the SWIFT system. A massive market of over 100 million people suddenly opened its doors to the East. Moreover, it is a market free from Western competition. During the early stages of industrialization, great powers had to dispatch expeditionary forces to fight for similar-sized markets. Russia was forced to sign unequal treaties repeatedly. Today, the East has gained this lucrative opportunity without firing a shot. Such good fortune is truly rare throughout history. Now, Russia is becoming the East's version of Canada. In 2023, trade between China and Russia surpassed $240 billion. The Russian market is flooded with East's products. From smartphones, home appliances to automotive machinery. This dependency will only deepen. Russia is irreversibly becoming the East's economic dependency. The past 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine conflict can be simply summarized as the Third World fighting its former brother, the First and Fourth World. The EU and the UK, in their fierce support for Ukraine, have exhausted their resources and vitality. And what about the Second World, the East? They leisurely watch the show. At the same time, they profit by selling goods and equipment to both sides. This script feels somewhat familiar, doesn't it? Indeed, it mirrors the path of America's rise during World War I and II. America emerged as a latecomer. When European powers were exhausted from fighting, they entered the stage as saviors, while taking over Britain's global dominance. However, today's East is even more formidable than the America of that time. Look at the industrial capacity, steel production, and the speed of technological innovation, all of which have surpassed America. Japan dared to attack Pearl Harbor back then. But today, who would dare challenge the East? Under Zelensky's insistence, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has lasted 3 years. It can be called a small world war. The result of these 3 years is the accelerated decline of the United States. Russia is locked in its developmental limits. The European Union is heading toward disintegration. Ukraine is left in ruins. Only the East has become the biggest beneficiary on the shoulders of all the winners. As the East and the United States gradually draw closer in strength, many are deeply concerned. History shows that the transition between old and new hegemons often involves bloody conflicts. Britain and Germany clashed in World War I. In World War II, the US and the Soviet Union faced off in the Cold and Hot Wars. Will a similar play unfold between the East and the United States? Could a miracle happen, with the East winning without a fight thanks to Zelensky's assistance? This situation is already taking shape as the US and NATO support Ukraine. 3 years later, the world order is quietly changing. The contrast in 2025 is already evident. Let's look at the 6th-generation fighters. The space station, lunar exploration, electric vehicle technology, and aircraft carrier construction speed. The East is leading in all aspects. Even the living standards of ordinary citizens are rapidly closing the gap. Apart from high-end chips, the US struggles to find any clear areas of advantage. In 2021, few recognized that the East could challenge America's hegemonic position. But just 3 years later, Zelensky's tenacious resistance not only shattered Russia's myth, but also exposed the fatigue of the US and NATO. The world's top position is relinquishing power when a military alliance cannot protect those it claims to safeguard. This alliance is losing its purpose. NATO is facing a crisis of trust. Russia once asked the US, with the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact gone, shouldn't NATO disband as well? The US naturally refused. However, the fundamental reason for disbanding a military alliance is never the loss of an opponent, but the loss of combat effectiveness. Either internal division or being defeated by external enemies. Now, doubts among NATO members are deepening. Can the US be relied upon? Zelensky is considered the perfect proxy for the US. He has consistently supported the military, is capable and reliable. There has been no corruption of aid funds or political betrayal. Yet, even such an ideal ally, after receiving massive aid, still faced defeat, which is a devastating blow to NATO's credibility. Ukraine's painful lesson teaches NATO members a hard truth. Countries distant from Russia are safe while those close to Russia are not. NATO cannot protect them. What use is NATO then? This Cold War relic organization will disband. It's only a matter of time. The development path of the Russia-Ukraine conflict has many possibilities, but ultimately led to the most favorable outcome for the East. The worst outcome would have been a swift defeat for Ukraine, with Russian forces capturing Kiev within 2 weeks. In that scenario, Russia would not only gain strength, but also become more arrogant. That would be detrimental to the East. The best outcome would have been a decisive victory for Ukraine with NATO's help, pushing Russian troops back to their borders. This would greatly enhance the prestige of the US and NATO, putting more pressure on the East. A moderate outcome would involve both sides signing peace agreements after a stalemate, with both gaining something while the East profits slightly. However, the strategic landscape would remain largely unchanged. The actual outcome is almost perfect. Ukraine's tenacious resistance lasted 3 years, launching multiple counterattacks. While it suffered greatly, it also severely damaged Russian forces, draining NATO's vast resources and exacerbating divisions within the US. Ultimately, it ended in failure. This outcome caused the EU to lose its competitive strength against the East. The US faced soaring debt and internal strife. NATO's credibility collapsed. Russia was forced to relinquish many interests in the Far East and Central Asia, and took over a resentful Ukraine's mess. Without Zelensky's resistance over these 3 years, the East would have made only modest gains. However, it was his persistence that allowed the East to reap substantial profits. They emerged victorious. Another significant outcome of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is the accelerated development of the East's military technology. Our 6th-generation fighters, AWACS, Type 076, aircraft carriers, and advanced missiles are being unveiled. They showcase overwhelming technological superiority. Take the AWACS as an example. It has a detection range of up to 1,000 kilometers, able to lock onto an F-22 from 360 kilometers away. In contrast, the US air-to-ground missile range is only 160 kilometers. This means the East can see its opponents in the air while they cannot see us, resulting in a dimensional strike. Now, Russia has completely cut off gas supplies to the EU, severing its energy ties with Europe. This also forces Russia to turn its resources eastward, making it increasingly reliant on the East's market. A once superpower is rapidly becoming a resource supplier and product seller for the East, much like Canada to the US. As great opportunities arise, strategic chances will emerge at every key stage. Detailed insights will be shared in the videos. Now, make sure to follow. Don't miss any message. Let him witness the turning point of history together.